Welcome to my channel. This is JC Rock and Metal Reviews. My name is John and I have another new album review. It is by Monster Magnet called A Better Dystopia. But before I begin, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. I do rock and metal reviews, rankings, and a lot more. So when I first heard about this album, I heard it was a covers album and I wasn't really intending to review the album, but I'm usually not a big fan of covers albums, and being that Monster Magnet is like this type of like stoner metal band, I kind of was expecting them to do covers of like these like obvious choices like Black Sabbath or Soundgarden or things like that. But I was really surprised when I researched the album. I found out they were covering songs from these like proto metal bands from like the early 70s, and I looked at the track list and I didn't recognize any of the songs. The only recognizable band that was on the list was the band Hawkwind. I'll be talking about them a little later. But the other bands I was very unfamiliar with, so that really kept me interested in checking out this album. Pretty much a lot of these songs are about like 50 years old, with like a few exceptions, but they really make them sound like modern and fresh, and that is the reason why I am interested in reviewing this album. So before I get into the songs, let me just talk a little bit about the band Monster Magnet. So Monster Magnet, they are a stoner rock band or a stoner metal band. They began in 1989. They were like a little big in like the mid 90s with their album Dopes to Infinity, and they had like a hit on MTV called Negasonic Teenage Warhead. After that, their next album was called Power Trip in 1998. And they had another like MTV hit called Space Lord. And since then they have been very consistent, putting out albums every about 3 or 4 years. But they never really reached the same level of popularity as they did in the mid 90s. But while I was doing my research, I did discover that they have had a few songs from the TV series Sons of Anarchy. And that's one of my favorite series. The first one I want to talk about is called Born to Go. And this was from the band Hawkwind. So Hawkwind was one of the earliest space rock bands. They formed in 1969, and this was also Lemmy's band before Motorhead. This song, Born to Go, was originally recorded in 1971, and this sound has like a very like an early like punk rock sound. The guitars are heavy. There's like a kind of like a dirty level of distortion. It's a really hard rocking song, really great drum sound. Has some pretty cool like laser sound effects in the song. I like the guitar solo, it's really cool, and it still has that like early 70s rock sound. The next one I want to talk about is called Epitaph for a Head, and it was originally recorded by J.D. Blackfoot, and he was a musician from the late 60s, early 70s. This song was recorded in 1969, and it is pretty cool. It's like a psychedelic or garage rock version of like a Jimi Hendrix song. Has some pretty cool like bluesy guitar riffs. A very like raw sound. It's a short song, a little over 2 minutes, but it is pretty cool. The next song is called Be Forewarned, and it's by the band Pentagram. And Pentagram was one of the pioneers of like doom metal. But this song was actually recorded a little later. It's originally from 1994, a little more of a modern song, but it starts out with some clean guitars. It's one of the songs that kind of like slowly builds. It's like a psychedelic rock song. The sound reminded me a little of something off of Pink Floyd's Piper at the Gates of Dawn album. It has a really cool psychedelic guitar solo towards the end. So I like that one. The next one I want to talk about is Mr. Destroyer, and that's by a band called Poobah. They were a psychedelic rock band from the early 70s. This song was originally released in 1972. This one is also reminiscent of like that early like punk rock or garage rock. Almost like grunge music. I know grunge music was like 30 years after that, but the guitar is very like distorted, a lot of feedback. Like I said, it's like a garage rock sound. Some pretty cool like wah-wah pedal effects on the guitar solo. I like that part a lot. I like the drum solo, like in the middle, there's like a breakdown. Almost reminds me of like Iron Butterfly in Agata Davida. I mean, it's not really that long, but it is kind of like a pretty cool drum solo, and then like it's just like atmospheric breakdown with like a bass and some effects and things like that. And I thought that was pretty cool. The last one I want to talk about is called Learning to Die, and this is by the band Dust. And Dust was, I guess, a hard rock band, or even You could even say they were almost like a metal band like before Black Sabbath, because this band was formed in '69. This song was released in '72. Really cool song. The guitar riff is really heavy. I mean, it's almost like proto speed metal mixed with a little bit of punk rock and like garage rock. Now this song kind of like does take a turn at 2 minutes, and it has like another breakdown with like the psychedelic and atmospheric parts. The song does slow down at this part, and at around 4 minutes, the song does pick up again and goes back to the main riff and just kind of finishes off the song. So I thought that was pretty cool. But in conclusion, I did like the album. The band Saxon, they put out a covers album not too long ago, and that one didn't really stick with me because their choices for cover songs were like very obvious. But this band, this album, they chose a lot of like obscure songs, so it actually felt very new, even though it is a cover song. So I like that aspect of it. You know, it kind of felt fresh to me, and it was a pretty decent album. So for that reason, I'll give it an 8 out of 10. It is enjoyable, and I'm someone who doesn't like cover albums. But like I said, it doesn't really feel like a covers album. So that's it. Tomorrow I'll be back. I'm going to do an AC/DC ranking video. It will be on some of the songs, but you'll have to wait till tomorrow to see what it's all about. And I will be introducing some artwork I just finished, also related to the band AC/DC. And I'll introduce that during that video as well. So hopefully that will be out Monday night. So please check out my in-video links over there. I'll see you in the next one.